I have enough of a background in research from my education to know that many times the cost of doing a study is incredibly high. Being able to do research is a huge privilege. I got connected with Jason Paltzer back when we were doing some common work on the White Mountain Apache Reservation, and he was working with some individuals and kingdom workers that were working there. We were going up to the res to sit in on their recovery meetings, and people from the White Mountain Apache Reservation were coming down and sitting in on our meetings as well. So what we do is essentially a peer support meeting, meaning there's no therapist, no one is there as a therapist, but we meet together and we follow a format which is unchanging from meeting to meeting, that begins with a Bible verse where we look at something related to addiction, some kind of predecessor to addiction or some character flaw that might be involved in addiction. Then we spend a few minutes and we do some questions as well that focus more on kind of what are the next steps that we want to take, or sometimes they're just a moment of reflection on what Jesus has done and how he did things that we weren't capable of, and what it would look like in our lives if we became a bit more like him. So there's actually been a couple of different studies, but we wanted to look at the outcomes of people who attended a resilient program. And specifically, we wanted to see, are these people using religion? Are they using spiritual coping mechanisms to a greater degree after they've gone through resilient? Our hope was that we really kind of make those connections explicit and plain to people, and that as a result of going through this process, it would change their attitude towards God. They would see him as more loving and less distant, and that it would change their behavior and how they deal with triggers, how they deal with bad days. And so we did a study. We worked with a local rehab here. They had 2 men's houses and a women's house, and we did a 6-week program in each one of those, and we did pre and post tests before we did resilient and afterwards. The findings were generally that we were moving in the right direction. It was a pilot study, and so we learned a lot about this population. I think one of the most valuable things that we learned was just how to conduct a study in a population that a lot of people simply don't have the time or energy or expertise to work in. The other thing is we learned sort of a bit about what kind of measures are important, because that's kind of a whole thing in and of itself, to figure out which measures are really getting at the things that you are interested in finding out, and then making sure that those measures are still valid and reliable with the population that they're using them with. And so I think there were so many good outcomes that came from that, and our ability to now go to the next level with our next study is we're just in a way different place than we were when we started. I think a partnership is important because you need to know which measures to use. You need to know how you're going to contact people and how you're going to track them. You need skills in terms of how you analyze that data, how do you clean that data, how do you draw conclusions from that. All of those things are skill sets and time that somebody like me in kind of a startup ministry just doesn't have the time to do. So to be able to tap in to other resources, whether it's Dr. Paltzer himself or whether it's graduate students or his staff, you increase the amount of time and bandwidth that you have to be able to do research, which otherwise, frankly, wouldn't be a viable option.